go be a friend. I told the Lord go be a friend. I told the God go be a guy. Amen. Amen. Elubelu go be a guy. Abdul Samad go be my guy. Rabbi, you go be my guy.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. This is one of my most fun topics because, okay, for instance, according to the latest data, an estimated 244 million children and youth worldwide are not in school.
Mind-boggling figure.
Exactly. 763 million young people and adults are illiterate, and fewer than 5% of the population aged 15 plus participate in adult education in almost 1/3 of countries across the globe. The right to education is being, present continuous, violated. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, says without inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong opportunities for all, countries will not succeed in anything. They will not succeed in achieving gender equality and breaking the cycle of poverty that is leaving millions of Nigerians, millions of children, youth and adults behind. Of course, you are not unaware of the figures, some of the figures in Nigeria, 20 million on the average, depending on whose data you are looking at, are said to be out of school across Nigeria. But in Lagos State, the government is making it a priority to develop education as part of efforts to achieve the goal. The governor of the state took a bold step last year by getting the approval to launch 2 more universities. Let's get more on that from Tokunbo Wahab, who is Special Advisor to Governor Sanwo-Olu on education. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's use the funnel approach, because education is about research, right?
Yes.
Many people always talk about the funnel. So those figures are definitely concerning. 244 million children and youth worldwide, 763 young people and adults illiterate. That must be a concern to anyone in the education space, especially because...
It should be a concern to everybody.
Okay.
It should be a concern to everybody. And that is why this governor and his deputy made it a priority. The priority goes just beyond getting 2 new universities after 40 years with a ballooning population. As in 1984, when they had LASU, or 83, 84, population was barely 6 million. And then the UN report was that by the year 2010, 80% of the jobs that will be available will be for university graduates. Now you have just 1 university. I will give you 3 faculties or 3 courses in LASU: law, medicine, and dentistry. For law, you can't admit more than 150, and when you have over 5,000 applicants. For medicine, you can't do more than 100. And then for dentistry, you can only do 10. 10, yes, in LASU. Now, 10, just 10. I'm giving you raw data. You can only admit 10 for dentistry. Now, that is for LASU, our Primus University. And then you have applicants that range between 15, 20,000 yearly. So when they fail to admit them, where do you think they go to? They go back home. They become idle. They become restless.
They're on the streets.
They're on the streets. And they become a danger to every one of us. Now, when this government came in, we've seen the figures. We had 2 colleges of education, one for primary education, one for the regular conventional college of education. And then we have a polytechnic. Let me start with the colleges. The colleges both have a subvention of about 550 million every month. And then they have a student enrollment that is less than 4,000. That means we're training 1 child with 500 annually. And then you have a dwindling because NEC is no more, NCE is no more attractive. And the UN report already stated that. So what do we have to do? The governor, being futuristic, said, look, let us be very proactive. Proactive in the sense that let us ensure we get a University of Education that will be specialized. We are doing so much investment in education. Let there be a platform to train these teachers. Hence, the idea of having a University of Education. And I'm proud to say the first set of students will be matriculating on Monday. Now, on the other hand, we have a polytechnic. We also know about the dichotomy between these HND holders and university graduates. Even in the civil service, you come with your HND. The peak you can get to is level 14, except you do a conversion that makes you become a full director, and then you can become a permanent secretary, which is the icing on the cake for every civil servant. So we say, what do we do here? Let us make this a University of Science and Tech. And very audacious, the governor, the deputy, and most especially the members of the House, where you have the Right Honorable Speaker buy into that vision with the other 39 members to pass the law. And today we have those 2 universities. We have vice chancellors in place, we have the lecturers in place, and I'm glad to say they are on course. But let me go back to what you said. How did we get here? How did we get to a position where we're struggling to give access for quality education to our pupils? That's the question we all must ask ourselves. Where did the elites drop the ball? In the 50s, 60s, you must go to school. The sage from the West, Aide, made it very clear, free and compulsory, that you must send your words to school. And that is why the generation that are in their 80s, 70s today had access to education. So how did the elites drop the ball in a way that the people that vote them in every cycle of election don't have proper access to education? That is the question we must ask ourselves.
I do beg your pardon. You keep saying the elites dropped the ball.
Yes.
The problem, as I see it, is that the population was growing, but facilities were not growing as much as the population was growing.
Auntie, it's about planning.
So it's not the elite, it is the ruling class, and there's a difference.
You see, Auntie, the elites, the ruling class are intertwined. There's a meeting point.
There is a difference.
There's a meeting point.
I may be an elite, but I'm not in the ruling class.
But you have access to them.
I'm in no position to determine how many schools there will be in Lagos State.
Let me give you an example, Auntie Alero. We have over 1,900 public schools in Lagos State. 1,009, and we're building more. Interestingly, under this governor, Sanwo-Olu, and his deputy, we've had also cause to open up a space that either was never existing. And I am glad to say my commissioner, that's Mr. Aide Fisayo, drove the process that let us have comprehensive schools. It's not all these kids that have the tendency to go full hog in the education system, especially at the secondary level. If you have the gift to use your hand, go for the comprehensive. That's what's there before. But they never drove that process. Now, we have over 50 comprehensive schools across Lagos State. Now, this will complement our technical colleges across the divisions.
I was just going to ask you about technical colleges.
No,
are there any in the pipeline?
No, we have. Lagos have about 11, but it's not enough. So we now use the comprehensive colleges to complement them. So most of our big schools now have a comprehensive college embedded in the system.
Okay. Well, Mr. Wahab, perhaps we should back up a little to effects of these processes over the years, even before the Sanwo-Olu government came into play. I mean, you said the other time something about what we needed to do and all. The Constitution is very clear.
Yes.
In 18.3, I'm sure you're aware, that a government shall strive to eradicate illiteracy, and to this end, government shall, as and when applicable, provide free, compulsory, and universal primary education, free secondary education, free university education, and free adult literacy program, because government has to eradicate illiteracy. Now, so how would you say, how well would you say we are doing in that regard?
I will speak for Lagos.
Using Lagos State?
Yes, I will speak for Lagos across board. For primary, for secondary, it's free. tuition free till date.
Primary.
Primary and secondary. The only place where they pay tuition is not even tuition, it's for boarding. Our model colleges where you have boarding facilities in place.
There have been questions, and I'm sure you're aware of those questions, about the quality of that free education. There are those who are wondering, okay, on the one hand, the quality of teachers. This is not to say that the government isn't doing enough, but speak to the quality of the teachers. And I know you can probably only speak for public school. I'm coming to the landing of the question. But you have to also, because it is government. Government is also responsible for ensuring that whether it's primary or public or private, the quality of education is standard. That's one. Secondly, speak to the quality of facilities, whether they're in rural, suburban, or urban Lagos.
Thank you very much. Now, let me start with, my chain of thought was a bit disrupted. I was telling you about what we have in place in Lagos, free qualitative education, and the state government, since the time of Asiwaju, have been paying for the WAEC fees across the state. Now, we now have an agency called Agency for Mass Education. That's for adult literacy, strictly speaking. And what it does is, if you miss the bus to know how to read and write years ago, the door is still open. It's never shut at you. And that is an agency that we are driving the process, and is doing very well across the state, with over 157 centers across the state. Now, in between this, we now have our technical colleges. We now have our comprehensive colleges. Is this enough for a 22 million growing population? I will tell you no. However, what we're doing is we're opening up the space to grant access. That's a key word under UNESCO report, access for quality education. That now takes you to your question of the quality of teachers. Why did you think the governor said we should go and have a University of Education? I'll give you the raw data. In Lagos State and Tertiary, we have over 18,000 private schools. About maybe 12, 13,000 are unregistered or not registrable. Yes. Now we have an office under the Ministry of Education called Education Quality Assurance Office. That office is meant to grant them access and create a standard to register them, so we can have the data on them. That is the sole purpose of having that office in the first place. So we're not just looking the other way. We're saying to you that, okay, you want to set up a private school, for instance. There's a minimum standard you must have in place. You must be deliberate in your approach. You must have maybe this size of space for sports, for classrooms, for leisure and everything.
Mr. Wahab,
yes,
I'm sorry to break this.
Let me land.
But you know, you said something troubling.
Let me land. So if these things are in place, all we have to do is set that standard for them, and we're doing that. The office is in place. The office goes around the state. The office just have offices across the 57 LGs and LCDAs. So it's not about the government not pushing or driving this process. And continuously, the Office of Quality Assurance also engages the private school owners through different associations that they set up for themselves. The high class, the medium, and the low end private schools.
Okay. It is very troubling when you say there are 12,000 unregistered or unregistrable private schools in Lagos.
Look, Lagos is a big city. Let us call a spade a spade. That is a fact. That is the data I'm giving you. It used to be like 18 or 19,000, but in the past 3.5 years, we've closed down. We've moved some of them to register them. At a point, I know I had a conversation with the DG, and she said they have to start opening up the space. Okay, if you have this, come in first. Whilst we'll give you a window to go and put this and this in place. So that's why the number had reduced, and it's an ongoing conversation.
So how, okay, go ahead.
But Mr. Wahab, once upon a time, schools made a big thing of putting on their signboard, government approved. So what happened that 13,000 were able to open up schools? Because I see some nursery schools that are on first floors of building. And I say a nursery school is where children go to play. But I don't see any space for playing, but somebody is operating a creche on the first floor of a building. Who approved this? But they have signboards. So what's happening to Lagos State Inspection?
Most of them are being closed down on a daily basis. You see, it also talks about our values as a people. I want to set up a system. I am going to do it my own way or the highway. That is a question. Why are we like this? It's like a man that drives against traffic. Is it right in the first place to want to drive against traffic? You want to set up a school to impact knowledge, impact values. And for all you care, I will just set it up without caring for the well-being of those pupils that are coming in there. And then, how about those persons that take their kids there? But for us, we won't blame. We'll keep doing the work. We'll keep improving on it. We'll keep shutting them down as we approach them.
Okay. So this is where we are now, and perhaps a number of people might also be very curious about, my colleague asked you about technical education.
Yes.
And you also spoke about polytechnics. The assumption over the years has been that polytechnics are supposed to do something completely different from universities. In terms of function for Lagos State government, you know, the wing of which you also work in, which is education, what would you say are the things responsible for the erosion of the primary functions of polytechnics and perhaps by extension technical education, and how are we readdressing it?
Honestly, I think it's about we as a people. We are certificate-centric as a people. There's this notion amongst us that if it's not a university certificate, it's not a university certificate, which was why I had to give the example of our public service. Over the years, the government had been making pronouncements, doing policies that you can't discriminate, for instance, between a BSc holder and the HND holder. But has it ever been implemented? I'm coming.
Okay.
Let me just land on this. So, over the years also, people started taking the university option to seek knowledge and leaving the polytechnic option or the college's option. I will now give you a practical example. If you want to write your UME, for instance, that's JAMB. The best students are assigned to the universities. Best students are for the universities. Second best for the polytechnics. And then the last set are meant to go to colleges of education to go and be teachers. This is from JAMB policy. I didn't set up that policy as a person, but that is the reality of what we're dealing with. Now, how would your worst in an exam be taken to the colleges to be teachers? What kind of teachers are you going to produce? These are questions we should ponder about.
Okay. Now, in that light, I also believe, correct me if I'm wrong, because I would like you to speak to the function of each of those classes of tertiary education. Yes. What were supposed to be the functions of the technical education? Because I remember the technical education in Oyo State, for instance, they trained technicians, so to speak. That's my understanding. Yes. I hope I'm right. Polytechnics had their own functions as well, you know, which was supposed to be more of functional education, something that you lived function, the technical, technical or polytechnics, you just go start a small business or something. That's my assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong. But then universities are theorists, academicians, and all of that. So for Lagos State government, what infrastructure supports the technical schools that you have, such that when they graduate, they can get in there and begin to work some things out? What infrastructure are there to support the graduates of the polytechnics as well? Okay.
Now, for the technical colleges, they have their workshop and they have everything in place. And once they graduate, we always give them access to our Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. That is the sole purpose, most times. Grant them access to credit facilities, single-digit interest rates, to set up their own business. It's still there. It's doing very well for them. For the Polytechnic, why did we convert it to University of Science and Tech? It's still within the same line but making it more of a specialized university now for science and technology, and let it be more research-driven for our development. We have a real project going on, for instance. Where are we going to get those experts from that system? Already there is a functional faculty of transportation in that system. And then we are going to give them access to work from our own end. Don't also forget, the government should just provide the enabling environment, not to be an employer of labor. But there are instances where the government will have to be an off-taker. Like where we have a project like the rail project, which is what we're doing. And it's a massive project on the two most important lines for us, the blue and then the red lines. Moving people from Ebute-Metta to Agbado, that's something kilometers. Moving people from Outer Marina to Okoko, 27 kilometers. They will need hands. In the initial stage, those are fixed it, the Chinese will work. But it gets to a point, the knowledge, the expertise must be localized. And that's what we're doing.
Mr. Wahab, don't you think that we as a people need a complete
reorientation?
Yes, because now artisans that we use in Nigeria are mainly foreigners.
Yes.
You want to build a house, for instance, your carpentry work is done by a Ghanaian, your POP work is done by somebody from Togo or from Cotonou, you know. And these are things that Nigerians can do, but we don't want to do it. We want to go and get university degree. I keep using this example. I personally know an architect who has been our guest on this program many times, who threw away his certificate and went into plumbing. He is now a professional plumber. And he tells me that he's making more money from plumbing than from being an architect. Because he finds that most of the buildings in Ikoyi and VI, the plumbing has been done wrongly, and he's now being contracted to come and correct them. But my brother will be ashamed to be called a plumber.
I talked about ethical reorientation. When was the last time we heard about a city and guild exams, for instance? In the 70s.
Which was big in those days.
In those days.
Yes.
If you had a C&G, you were made.
good to go.
Yeah.
In developed climes, plumbers, artisans make so much money.
In fact,
and they are respected.
You'd best go and learn how to do your own plumbing yourself. Because you can't pay them because they charge you per hour.
That's why DIY is popular over there.
So for me, we have to go back to the drawing board in whatever we're doing with our education policy. And that's what this governor, Sanwo-Olu, is driving at. Let us create more comprehensive colleges. We have 50 in place now. We ramp up the number in the next 4 years by the grace of God, to maybe 200 or thereabout. Those kids that are not very good academically, let them have
good with their hands.
Yes. And that's what we're doing. Catering, hairdressing, carpentry, plumbing, and we're seeing the results. Now, you see, when you invest in education, people should understand you have to be very patient. In the past 3.5 years, this government has ramped up investment in education, and the results are trickling in different ways. For instance, for his primary, he said, I want to have a standardized primary education system where teachers across the state will have the same platform. Using the Eco Excel platform, is computerized, to teach. You can monitor them. You can say, by 8 o'clock, if you are not plugged into your class, they will know at a centralized data center that you are not there across the state. And the curriculum is the same. Then for the secondary, he used TESCOM to say, if you don't have a background in education, for instance, you can't be a teacher in Lagos. For the past 2 years, that is standard. You must have a background in you must have a teaching background. Not that teaching has become ayaba, technically speaking, that I'm looking for a job, I studied banking, I want to go and teach.
What is ayaba?
I stumbled on it. No, you can't stumble on teaching. It's a deliberate profession.
But now, to get that, the remuneration also has to be improved.
That's where I'm going to.
So that those who have a flair for teaching
that is where I'm going
and know that they will get something
out of it. And in the past 3 years, he's been doing award for teachers. rewarding them with vehicles, SUVs, regular cars, allowances, incentives, and we've seen the results. The result from Lagos State, WAEC, moved from 39% to 84%.
84?
84, including maths and English. This is not rocket science. It's a deliberate approach and investment in education. Oh, it's also deliberate to tell you that LASU's profile had grown. For those that know LASU, 10 years ago, it was the heaven for courtism. But there's a deliberate culture to say, no, it's a place for knowledge and excellence. It's a university. It's a universe of knowledge. And today, LASU is being ranked globally because there's a deliberate approach to deliberately invest in knowledge, human and capital infrastructure by this same governor. And what have we done differently? We said, students, lecturers must have peace on campuses. Yesterday, it was not our own initiative for the students across the state to say, look, during COVID, this governor deployed LMS, Learning Management System. None of our schools had disruption in academic calendar. They went for NYSC on point. When ASU was on strike, when this governor came in 2019, looked ahead, he's been in a staff before as a commissioner, labor-related issues on top of it. He said, look, what are the issues that increase subvention for all of them, first line payment charge, allow them to have their autonomy. And today, investing so much in their infrastructure, today they are ranking LASU as one of the best in the country. Okay. So for me, we also have to be deliberate in our approach. I've said it severally, investing in education is the way to go. We are doing that. Are we there yet? No. Don't also forget, people coming to Lagos every day. They come to stay. People coming every day, they come to stay. The Lagos of 3 years ago is different now. Just stay here. The entrance of this challenge is them coming. And where are they going into? We set up the last try to say, let us take a register of all our residents. Let us have a data of you so we can plan for you. If, for instance, we're saying to ourselves, we went to Etiosa, between a community and the other, no school, and we had to build a world-class school for them. It was a deliberate plan because there was a need for it, and by this governor. We said to ourselves, oh, we have our students, they are going in numbers, the economy is not looking so good. We increased their bursary by 100%. It's also a deliberate approach by this governor.
Okay. Let me take you back, rewind.
Yes.
Let's go back to the beginning, the primary school.
Yes.
Where I believe that a lot is taught to a child. A child's character is formed at that stage. Why do you think that there are so many out-of-school children?
Different reasons.
Okay, one.
Now, when the dislocation in the Northeast started, most people were not looking at it. UN was already flagging it. When dislocation started with the Boko Haram incidents over the past 10 years, those kids were just being armed on a truck and they're moving them south. South to do what?
Beg.
To beg. For survival. That's the economic leg of it.
Okay.
Thrown out by a social dislocation from one extreme of the country. And Lagos is a sub-national, don't forget that. We can't tell people not to come in. So that accounts for a lot of those numbers that people are talking about. And it goes beyond Lagos. Wherever there is peace, in a wartime situation, people move to, they gravitate to those areas. Now there's dislocation in the Eastern European bloc. People are moving to the western part of Europe. At the point last year, the UK had to suspend visa applications from some parts of the world to attend to Ukrainian applicants. It's deliberate. So those numbers apparently were thrown up by those dislocations up north. Two, the economic situation. I've had cause to pack and ask questions of these kids that sell on the streets. Some of them are breadwinners for their families. Realistically. Yeah, in those days growing up also, they were like that. But the difference is, in those days, they hawk their wares between 6:30 in the morning and 7 or 7:15. And you see them clean up and they go back to school. Now, On the other leg of the economic situation is some persons bring them to these parts where there's peace, where there's commerce, to use them to earn a living. Now, I'm saying all this so we can know how to address them.
Okay.
We have a policy at our primary school level. No child will be left behind. And this was designed after COVID because most of those kids didn't come back to school.
Okay.
And we said, let us start tracing them, and we're going to their homes, bringing them back to school.
Well, I know we have to go any moment now, but if you can, in 30 seconds, I know it's impossible, but I'm going to try. Okay. In 30 seconds, you spoke about some university, having their matriculation.
Yes.
Which one of them?
The University of Education is having this matriculation too.
Which was the College of Education?
Which was the two colleges of education.
Okay.
But they're now one with two campuses, Ijaniki and Nofori-Jaekwe.
Okay.
So the matriculation would come up on Monday for the pioneer students, and they're about 3,000 plus, 65 courses. And the one for University of Science and Tech Ikorodu will be first week of February, for about 2,018 students to pioneer. Now, the reason why the numbers are low for pioneer is because they still have legacy students that they have to graduate in those colleges.
Okay. Is there a website for anyone who's seeking information about?
Yes, they have their websites.
Okay.
Just Google it.
One can just Google and find it, just for more information.
Yes.
Well, there is so much to talk about, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. We have to thank you very much for this morning, for coming here. Tokunbo Wahab is a special advisor to Governor Sanwo-Olu on education in Lagos State. Just to be clear, because you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Your time. Okay. Well, we have had the home stretch, so I guess we have to shuffle the home stretch now. In all of this melee, there is always a need for us to keep a sane head. How do you do that? That's up. Our final stretch when we return from this break. Stay with us.